People today, they could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hello and welcome to this AARP Illinois special presentation on our countdown to Bike the Drive. Today is the second part of our bike and pedestrian safety series. If you were able to join us this past Monday, you saw our presentation on bike safety. Today is a presentation on pedestrian safety, but even if you're joining us for the first time, we hope that you'll get something valuable out of our presentation today from our guests. And we do hope that you'll join us at Bike the Drive on Sunday, August 31st, coming up soon, where DuSable Lake Shore Drive will be shut down to motor traffic. And you'll be able to ride up and down on your bike and join us there. And we'll have details about that in our closing. But first, let's go ahead and have our guest today. Our guest today is Stephen Petrus who is a SAFE ambassador at the Chicago Department of Transportation. He's going to talk to us today about Walking Safety 101. Go ahead and take it away, Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen. I'm with the Chicago SAFE Ambassadors. We do education and outreach for the Department of Transportation. SAFE stands for Streets Are For Everyone, because it's our mission to make sure that everybody gets around the city safely, no matter how they're traveling. We often focus on bikes. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about pedestrian safety. So like I said, SAFE stands for Streets Are For Everybody. We do safety and education for the Department of Transportation. If you look at that little map, those are a couple of the events that we'll help host. We do all kinds of events. We'll do community bike rides. We do engagement and education in schools. We'll go to parks. And we teach free learn to ride classes for people who don't know how to ride a bike or are maybe just a little bit shaky and need a little confidence boost. So, why would you walk instead of driving? We like to use the acronym FEET. FEET stands for Freedom or Fun, Exercise, Environment, and Transportation. So for a lot of people, walking can be more fun than driving, and it gives you a sense of freedom. You have a little more independence. It doesn't require quite as much planning as a drive. You don't need to worry about things like parking, and it requires just a little bit less planning, allowing more flexibility and fluidity to traveling. It can be nice to walk through new neighborhoods. If you're walking around, you might run into people you know. You can explore the neighborhood, and it's a little bit more of a challenge than driving often is, which leads into exercise. So walking is a better form of exercise than driving because it's a full body workout, and you can adjust that depending on your own ability. You can walk slower, faster. You want a little more exercise, you can speed walk places, or if you're often in a hurry like me. Exercise has been shown to boost your moods and reduce stress. It's always good to get out there and move around. Walking is also better for the environment than driving. Walking has a lower carbon footprint. It's a little more environmentally friendly, and it cuts down on air pollution in the neighborhoods, which can make the city a more pleasant place to live. Walking can also be a better form of transportation than driving for a lot of people. It's cheaper. It doesn't require nearly as much resources as driving would. You don't need to fuel up your feet. I mean, I suppose whatever you eat probably fuels you a little bit, but overall, you're not paying for sticker fees to walk. You're not paying for parking. You don't have to pay for walking insurance. And that just makes it a little more affordable. It also lets you take shortcuts you might not be able to do in a drive. And if you're ever driving a rush hour, you know how bad that traffic is. And walking lets you bypass that over a short distance. So who's the most vulnerable when we're out on the roads? This is an example of the modal hierarchy here. The idea of this is to prioritize protecting people who are more vulnerable. So here we have our pedestrians, walking, and then cyclists, and then transit, all the way down to cars. The theory is that if we're protecting the people who are most vulnerable, there's a trickle-down effect that can help other forms of transportation. So we protect the pedestrians, and that benefits the bikers. We protect the bikers, it benefits people on transit, and so on. So a statistic here, over 42,000 lives are lost. Or let me start that over. So we have a statistic here. Over 42,000 lives were lost due to traffic deaths in 2020. That would be like a regional plane crashing every single day for the entire year. In a lot of ways, traffic violence is normalized in our society, which means that we don't think much of that. But I imagine if a plane was crashing every single day, people might think a little bit more about flying, right? So we are all pedestrians at some point. Not everybody's driving, not everybody's taking the bus or the L, but everybody has to walk sometimes or roll, right? We're all using the sidewalk at some point, even if it's just to get to our vehicles. So even with that in mind, we often have kind of a blind spot for pedestrian injuries and fatality, and they remain high from year to year. So in 2023, more than 68,000 pedestrians were killed nationwide, meaning that could happen to any one of us or any one of our loved ones, which is why we take this pretty seriously here at the Department of Transportation. So in Chicago, between 2017 and 2021, left-turning motorists were involved in 40% of all crashes when a pedestrian was injured or killed. So left-turning cars are often the most dangerous thing on the road. That's why we always encourage people to be very aware, especially when you're making turns, of crosswalks and where pedestrians might be, because you can always do a little better if you're expecting them. We have a law here that if there is a pedestrian in a crosswalk or about to enter a crosswalk, you're legally required to stop. A lot of people don't know that, or they don't think about it too much, but that crosswalk is for pedestrians, and you need to treat every crosswalk like a stop sign if there's pedestrians present. So a lot of reasons those left turn traffic crashes happen, or many other kinds of crashes, is that there's blind spots in a vehicle, right? On the left there's an example of a A-pillar blind spot. So that would be the front corner of your car. If you see that one's pretty big, even if it seems like it might not be that big of an area, that easily hides a full person and a half there. So it might seem like that would be, oh, we'll see them anyway. It's important to remember that drivers, we're looking around ideally all the time. So if you glance over there and that person is covered up, you're not going to know they're there, right? The same applies to the front blind spots, rear blind spots. Especially children are vulnerable to those. Because if you see here, as we have taller and taller vehicles, it's pretty easy to miss a small person moving out in front of a car. And you just need to be extra cautious and keep these blind spots in mind while traveling around, because you never know what you're missing until it's too late. So as a pedestrian, some things we can do to keep ourselves safe. You always want to be crossing at a crosswalk. That's where cars expect you to be. We like to say that streets are for cars or other vehicles. Sidewalks and crosswalks are for pedestrians. So if we are on the street and a vehicle is coming by, they're expected to be there. Pedestrian isn't necessarily expected. And we don't want to take anybody by surprise. The more predictable we can be, the better. So pedestrians in the crosswalks have legal right of way. And there's often markers to make it more obvious and to draw more attention to the people moving out into the road. So try to prioritize those crosswalks if you can. Tip here, I know I always do this. It's good to make eye contact with drivers out on the road. Other pedestrians too, cyclists, anyone that you might want to get their attention, you want them to notice you. Eye contact has been proven to draw more attention to your face and make sure that people traveling around you notice you. It's also good to signal intent. If I look at you, look out into the road and look at you, it makes it pretty obvious that I'm watching to make sure it's safe for me to go. That means, again, you're more predictable. You're less likely to surprise a driver. This is important because it's much harder to communicate with someone who might be enclosed in a car or traveling fast on a bicycle, because it's harder to speak to them. That's like body language is more important for signaling intent because it's one of the only ways we have to signal that intent. So there's a few ways that we can make the street safer. We discussed some things that a pedestrian or driver might be able to do, like behavior-wise, right? We can modify our behavior to be safer, but everybody will make mistakes sometimes, and sometimes you still miss things even if you're doing your best. So we install this infrastructure around the city to keep pedestrians safe. So this also helps with that modal hierarchy, right? If we are installing infrastructure to keep pedestrians safe, that infrastructure is in turn keeping drivers safe and is keeping cyclists safe. So sacrificing a little bit of room on the street to keep those pedestrians safer really benefits all of us, no matter how we're traveling. This one right here is an example of a pedestrian refuge island. These exist to make crossing the street easier in locations where there might be a lot of traffic or especially a very wide road. Often you see these at a non-signaled intersection. So when there's no stoplight, these are implemented to make it safer to cross a busy road without having to halt traffic when no one's present. These work on the theory that the more time you're in the street, the more danger you're in. So we want to shorten the amount of time that pedestrians or other people traveling on sidewalks are safe in the road. I'm not sure what I said there. So these exist to shorten the distance that pedestrians or other travelers are in the road, because the longer you spend in the road, the more dangerous it is. So if you see here, there's a little bit of a curb area protected in the middle of the road. It kind of breaks the street up into two different crosswalks. So you can pause if you need to wait for oncoming traffic on either direction, and you don't end up stranded in the middle of the road. These are especially helpful for people who might be moving slower. You'll see often people in wheelchairs with canes, other mobility devices, they have a hard time getting across a crosswalk with enough time. And because they're slower, drivers might get impatient, or they might not be expecting them to be in the road when they come traveling through. So this gives them a place to take a break. Here's a few other examples of safety infrastructure. These are curb bump outs and curb extensions. So these work on a similar principle. We're narrowing the street to spend less time out in the road if we're more vulnerable. They also draw more attention to the crosswalk. As you can see, like the previous one, there's a nice neon sign there. Often there's lights. It makes it more obvious for a driver who might be paying attention to something else to notice that the crosswalk is there and to expect people. They also serve the dual purpose of narrowing the road. When the road is narrower, people tend to travel slower. It's a little bit of a psychology trick. If you're moving very quickly in a narrow space, it feels more uncomfortable and makes you feel like you might be moving even faster than you are. Whereas in a wide open road, it's easy to travel fast without realizing it. So these draw attention and they also force us to slow down. They also keep cars from blocking the sidewalk when they're parking there. So that's another little perk. If you see on the example on the right, where we have that yellow curb extension marked out, there's garbage cans there, there's street lights, there's a lot of things that might be obstructing the views of pedestrians. This allows them a place where they can lean out or step out into the traffic where they don't expect cars to be, where it might be a little bit protected. And that gives them time to see oncoming traffic, and it allows oncoming traffic to see a pedestrian trying to cross there. So as we mentioned earlier, those left turns are extremely dangerous and common. They cause a lot of crashes, often very, very serious ones. So this is a left turn traffic calming intersection. There's a couple of ways this is accomplished. Our example here, you can see those rubber speed bumps and those plastic bollards. Everything's brightly colored so you can see it. And this functions a little bit similar to a speed bump in that by putting a small obstruction there, it draws attention to the fact that you need to be going slow. If you hit one of these at speed, you're going to know it. The purpose is to make cars take wider turns out into the intersection, which means they're in the crosswalk for a shorter amount of time. And They're also more predictable for pedestrians walking. I'm sure everybody's seen a car cut a left turn really tight across a crosswalk like this. Um, the pedestrians might not know it's coming, so they think they're safe right there. It gives the driver less time to see somebody, and um, it also creates like a bigger blind spot. So by forcing cars out to go wider into the street like this, we make that whole turn a little bit safer. So just want to say thank you for this. I hope there's some information in there that everybody can find useful. You can follow the Safe Ambassadors at Chicago Safe on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and we share safety tips and we let people know about upcoming events that they might want to attend. Maybe hang out and have some fun with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for that presentation and for those helpful and important tips about safety and how to safely enjoy walking around and experiencing all of our communities have to offer. As we close, I want to remind you that we will be at Bike the Drive. DuSable Lake Shore Drive closes down Sunday morning, August 31st. We will be at Grant Park. If you haven't yet registered for the event, please visit bikethedrive.org/register. That's bikethedrive.org/register to register for the event. And then you'll also be able to stop by the AARP Illinois table inside the Active Transportation Alliance tent in Grant Park for a chance to receive a free gift from us while supplies last. So please join us on Sunday, August 31st. Look for us at Grant Park. Enjoy Bike the Drive. And this concludes our event.